to CityWise. I'm your host, Tiana Stevens. CityWise is produced by the City of Rochester to shine a spotlight on city living at its best. Well, at any time of the year, the city's 12 libraries are filled with people of all ages coming to explore literature and take advantage of the many free resources, classes, and activities that each branch has to offer. Our libraries are committed to advancing literacy in the city throughout many community initiatives and offer assistance to adults and residents and new Americans seeking to fulfill their educational goals. This is especially true at the Maplewood Community Library on Dewey Avenue. And with us today is Shelley Matthews, the Rochester Area Literacy Coordinator. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with Literacy Coordinator. What does that entail?
It's a very new job. It started in November of 2013, and what I'm trying to do is get classes in libraries where people need them. So if an area has a lot of immigrants, I would like to see them take English classes. If there's an area with a lot of people who do not have high school diplomas, I hope that they get their TASC degree. It used to be called GED, but it changed names on January 1st, and I'm just trying to get books out everywhere that people will read.
Mm-hmm. And Maplewood is especially busy, one of the busiest libraries in the city. Why do you think that is?
I think there's approximately 250,000 people a year go through Maplewood doors, and considering it's only 6,000 square feet, it truly amazes me. But I think that what's happening is the library and the librarians and the people who live in the neighborhood are helping us meet the needs of all these new refugees. We offer classes for English, we offer classes for citizenship, we offer TASC classes, and just recently we started a early childhood literacy initiative. And it's for 2- and 3-year-olds, but what was happening is the children in School 7 and School 41, they were getting a lot of refugee children, but they weren't really participating for several months into the year because they didn't understand English. Mm-hmm. What we're doing is kind of doing the exact same thing that you would do in any preschool. Is we have the singing time, dancing time, story time, lots of crafts, lots of time to just play. But what we're trying to do is really work on their words so that they have the words so they can sit crisscross applesauce, which I didn't know what that meant, but they're learning all the things that teachers are using in the Rochester City School District, so they'll be ready for pre-K next year.
Mm-hmm. And the teacher that you have there, tell us about her and her background and the curriculum that's been developed for these children.
Tarma worked very much as a administrator of several early childhood programs. She helped write a program. We're basically using the state program, but we're adding a lot of things about the holidays, such as Groundhog's Day and Martin Luther King Day, and the holidays that children and families who didn't grow up here would understand. So we've celebrated Valentine's Day. That was a big hit. The mothers all got presents. The mothers take classes at the same time as the children are in the other room, mm-hmm. but they all got their Valentines this year. And we go by the state curriculum with just a few little added additions, just so the parents and the children have an idea of what Valentine's Day is. So next year, if they're asked to bring in Valentines for everybody, they know what a Valentine is.
Mm-hmm. And why is early education so important?
The Rochester Children's Agenda has a wonderful graph, which I wish I had brought with me, but a child's brain really develops very fast between the ages of birth and age 5. And the earlier we catch them, the more likely they are to be a success. Parents need to read to their children for 20 minutes minimum a day. It should be 30. The children really need to play, interactive play, not just sitting them down with like an iPad and saying, okay, here you're playing, but interacting like you and I are talking so that they learn the words for things they don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're falling down a little bit on Rochester, which is why we're working so hard on kind of rejuvenating the toy library. Perhaps we're considering putting a toy corner in every library, just so that we can teach people the importance of playing and how it really is like the bricks and mortar that help build the foundation for literacy.
Okay. Okay, and you emphasize literacy. Why is that so important?
I consider literacy the skills that we need to become self-supporting. And it's reading and writing's my favorite, but there's also financial literacy, technology literacy, and I just learned a new one from a U of R professor the other night. There's community literacy, knowing how to work with other community members to get things done for your neighborhood. All these literacies are important, but obviously the one that we stress for preschool children is the reading and writing and learning how to express themselves.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the community getting involved, the after-school homework help. What partners are involved in coming to the library and helping kids?
Well, the Rochester School District pays for the Fallsview Academy to do tutoring at the libraries. Most of the libraries also have what we call literacy aides, which are students who were hired in their junior, senior year of high school, who had incredible grades, who like children, and who grew up in that neighborhood. And the reason we hire them is they're a good example for the younger children. But we work with children all the way from age kindergarten, when they start school, through their senior year. And we get a lot of volunteers, and they're the ones who really make a difference. At Maplewood, we have a man who, at least for 4, maybe 5 or 6 years, has volunteered 4 days a week. He comes in for 2 hours a day, maybe 3 if there's a lot of homework, and he works with them on their math. We have several volunteers who help children read. Just sitting next to a child and listening to them read and correcting the pronunciation is very important. Letting the child make mistakes but still read and give the child confidence that they can do the job is very important. So I don't know how we do it without all these volunteers.
Okay, and you mentioned parents should read to their child 30 minutes a day. What advice do you have for the parent who might think, well, they're too busy for 30 minutes a day? What little things can be done?
One of the things I think is that every woman in her purse should carry a book. There's lots of waiting time, traffic jam, doctor office, dentist office, wherever we have to go. If an older child is playing a game and you want to be there for the game, during the breaks or the pauses, you can read to the younger children. Having spelling tests in the car while you're traveling, all of that works to help. I think that what we don't realize is that how important parents are in this community. Parents are the best and the foremost teachers for their children. And they need to take this on, because as a child, that graph would have shown you, the child learns the most before he ever enters kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And if you don't read a half an hour a day, your child's 912 hours behind the other children when he enters kindergarten. And that's a big gap to ever try to close up. And the fact is we never do close it, because when the brain is forming, they need to hear the words, they need to hear the conversations, the rhythm of your voice. And one of the things you can do if you can't read is sing. Sing to your children. We all know Old MacDonald Had a Farm, or Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, something like that. Teach them the songs. Teach them the songs you love.
That's wonderful. And outside of the library, you started something at the public market, the Blue Shelf program. Can you tell us about that?
I have the blue bookshelves, and I started with Rotary, and it's now spread to the 7-county area, although I think in Newark, they're green. In Wayne County, they're different color. I got the idea from a diner on Mount Hope that has take a book, leave a book, and I saw that and thought, that's wonderful. We need to do that all over. Right now, I've given 120,000 books away at the public market. I take used books. I ask churches, Boy Scout groups. Right now, I have a Girl Scout troop out in Brighton that are doing book drives for me. I take used books and I give them to people who need them. We are now, just tomorrow I'm supposed to deliver them, blue book crates. They look like milk crates, but they're going to be book crates. And what we're doing is putting them where the homeless are fed, and where the homeless, especially those with children, spend the night. 14 churches in the area donate their space on a rotating basis, so we're going to have books there at every single church so that the children and the parents can read. And I just think we need to get books everywhere. And another Rotary project is the little libraries, and we've started them in this community, but I'm hoping to make it big in this community where people put them in their front yard and add books. And let their neighbors take the books they don't want. If a person doesn't like a book, they can return it. Mm-hmm. If they love the book, keep it and give some other book you didn't like and put it in the mailbox. But these little libraries are probably 18 inches square, and it's just wonderful that if we can get more and more people reading. It really helps, and it's a good example for children. It's good to read to a child. So I'm hoping we'll get more reading in our community.
That sounds good. And finally, we've seen that technology has changed the way that libraries are used. What do you think going forward, how can we keep the community involved with their library and associated with their neighborhood?
This is a question I get often asked because a lot of people think with new technology and your iPad or your computer, you don't need a library. But where do people learn about this technology? You and I don't have the time with families and full-time jobs to go back to learn. But if you go to your library, they will help you learn to use all this new technology. As you know, they're starting a new computer graphic area at Central for the teenagers. I think we all just need to stay abreast of it. That's part of our literacies, is staying technology savvy so that we can keep up with the younger people and understand what we need to understand about technology and to use the tools that we're given.
Okay. Finally, any other programs that you want to talk about or things that might be expanded to other libraries in the future?
Well, one of the things I'm looking for right now is a lot of children's and teenage books. The recreation centers are going to do a big summer reading program, and technically it's usually been a thing that the libraries do, but I'm very pleased because they have children that live in other areas that we don't have, and they're going to be doing it too. So I could use many books, used books in good condition. And if anybody has them, my office is at 107 Bridgeview Drive in the city, but if you get them to any library and put my name on it, it's Shelley Matthews, they'll make sure the books get to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shelley. And again, to learn more about the programs we discussed at the Maplewood Community Library or any other library, visit libraryweb.org. And you can also call 428-8220. That's for the Maplewood branch. CityWise will be right back. Welcome back. On this edition of CityWise, we're highlighting unique programs happening throughout our branch libraries. Well, if you've been to a library recently, you may have seen some furry friends laying around, listening to kids read. Well, they're not being lazy dogs. In fact, they're part of a very special program developed by Therapy Dogs International called Tail Waggin' Tutors. The goal is to provide a relaxed atmosphere that allows young readers to practice the skill of reading aloud. It helps to build self-esteem and allows children to associate reading with a fun and positive experience. Joining us now is Carol Giotto, Director of Therapy Dogs International, and with her is Lottie May, an English Mastiff. Kathy Wolf is also here. She's a children's librarian at the Central Library downtown. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Carol, we'll start with you. Tell us about Therapy Dogs International.
Okay, well, Therapy Dogs International is actually a national organization. It's out of New Jersey, and there are different therapy dog teams all over the country, as well as some in Canada, that do exactly what we do. And we visit nursing homes, schools, libraries, all different places where people would like animals to come in for some companionship and to visit with different residents and things like that.
And how does the program work? Does someone contact you when they're looking to have a dog?
Yeah,
come
so
in?
for example, with the reading programs, the librarians will contact us and ask if we can bring some dogs in on a certain date and time so that kids can come in and read. So I'm the director of our local chapter, number 216, and what I do is reach out to our local members and see who's available for a particular visit at a library or a school or something like that. And then essentially we get there and we, as a handler, my job is to make sure that my dog is in control, and basically what Lottie May is doing right now, stays in a downstay. And then at the reading programs, kids come in and sit down and read a book to her.
Okay. Kathy, you've been a librarian at Central for 20 years. The Tail Waggin' Tutors program, what's the value as far as learning to read and literacy?
Well, it offers kids an opportunity to practice their reading, especially reading aloud. Dogs are very non-judgmental when a kid makes a mistake, and they don't say, oh, wait a minute, that's wrong. You know, they just kind of listen, and the kids really, it builds their esteem and their confidence with reading.
I bet they get real excited when they see
Yeah,
the
they
dogs
do.
come in.
Yeah.
Carol, what are the other benefits besides reading aloud?
Well, specifically in the Tail Wagging Tutors program, we visit a lot of city libraries, and a lot of kids at first are really hesitant to come up to my dogs, partially because of their size, but also because of their experiences with dogs. And normally the first question they'll ask me is, will your dog bite me? And we use a little bit of time to talk through dog safety and how to approach a dog. And then they say, will your dog bite me if you ask him to or if you tell him to? So unfortunately, their experiences in their home environment aren't always positive with dogs, so they get a chance to not only learn a little bit about dog safety, but also start to have some positive experiences with dogs, and also calm dogs. There have been a number of kids who are terrified of dogs who come into the program and kind of sit 10 feet away, and little by little they come closer and closer, and by the end of the visit they're sitting right next to the dog petting them. So it's really been a good experience.
Okay. And how did you and Lottie Mae, and I know you have another dog,
Yep.
Jonah, how
Yep.
did you first get involved? And can any dog be a therapy dog?
Yeah, I first got involved actually with a dog named Largo. We adopted him when he was 5 years old, and he was a retired champion show dog. And once we got him, he was a little bored and he wanted something to do. So I got into therapy dog work with him, and he absolutely loved it. Any dog, from a Therapy Dogs International perspective, any dog can be a therapy dog. There is no limitation to breed or size or sex. The only thing is the dog has to be a year old in order to take the test. There is a standard test that's given, and that way if a Therapy Dog International dog is in your location, all of the handlers have been through the same level of testing and you know what to expect.
How many dogs and handlers do you have?
In the chapter, the local chapter I'm the director of, there's about 125 teams in our chapter. Nationally, I think there's like 25,000 teams who are part of Therapy Dogs International.
Okay. And when you say chapter, what does that mean?
That's a good question. So normally when people become a team, a dog and a handler is a team, they visit individually. So they'll go to a nursing home or something and visit on their own. In order for groups of people or groups of handlers to visit together, they need to be part of a chapter. So Therapy Dogs International has created this format called a chapter. So for example, when we go to the libraries, we have anywhere from 2 to 4 dogs at a particular library. So we're allowed to visit together, and that gives the kids a variety of dogs to meet with, as well as it gives the opportunity for more kids to be able to read because there's more dogs there.
Kathy at Central, very busy place. What is the schedule for the Tail Wagging Tutors there?
They come one Saturday a month. I think it's the third Saturday. And they come for an hour. When we first started, I really had no idea what to expect. So I tried to make everybody, 15-minute increments and stuff. And clearly I was being just too regimented. The way it works now is kids come in and they pull up a dog and a book, and they sit down and they read to a dog. And usually there's enough time that each kid gets to read to each dog that's there if they want to.
Okay. If someone is interested in having their dog become a therapy dog, where do they find resources for that?
So the Therapy Dogs International website, which is www.tdi-dog.org, has information on upcoming evaluations in the area, as well as it explains what the testing requirements are for dogs. And essentially the test is basic obedience. Your dog needs to sit, stay, come, leave it is an important command, especially in a nursing home. And a large part of the test is temperament. They need to make sure that if your dog is in a public place and someone accidentally trips over it or hits into it, your dog is got a solid temperament. And so again, that's got the different tests. The test itself takes you through some of the situations you would experience if you're out on a a dog visit.
And Lottie Mae obviously has a very nice temperament.
Very
She's
calm.
just hanging out. How does the program differ between the library and school visits?
So Kathy talked about the program that we do in the city libraries that's very informal. There are a number of schools in the area who have very structured programs. In those cases, they've matched up a child with a specific dog, and that team reads. The child reads to the same dog every week throughout the school year, and their progress is actually monitored to see what improvements that child is making from a reading perspective. And then there's variations in between different places we go, have some different variation of that.
Okay. Kathy, aside from the tail wagging tutors, what are the other literacy programs that are offered at Central?
We do try to offer a wide variety of different kinds of programs at the Central Library. Many of our programs are just to expose kids to different kinds of experiences. Over school break, we had a cooking program. Of course, we do a lot of story times. Usually we do story times for daycare centers. I do an outreach once a month, and my coworker does a couple outreaches where we go into a daycare center and offer a couple different story times.
Okay.
For preschoolers.
Have you seen a difference in a particular child maybe that you've known over the years that has read to a dog, and have you seen a difference in their confidence level?
They certainly tend to, oh, it's dog day, they say. We certainly get a lot of excitement about it when the dogs are in. As far as an individual kid's reading level growing, unfortunately, Carol probably has a better feeling for that. I'm not always in the room for the whole time.
Okay. And Carol, Lottie Mae and the others, they're always laying there. They're very calm and relaxed. Is there anything specific about her breed? And she is a big dog that makes her maybe more prone to be a good companion for reading?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, when I first got involved with becoming a therapy dog handler, I expected to bring my dogs into nursing homes. That was really my goal. And once I started doing it, it just wasn't a good fit. They're very large and hard to maneuver around, you know, beds and wheelchairs and things like that. So I gave the reading program a try just because we were starting it in the city libraries, and so I wanted to see what it was all about. And lo and behold, my dogs are a perfect match because they like to lay down and not move. So, and it's really helpful in reading programs, especially if there are kids there who are somewhat frightened or apprehensive around dogs. And you know, they can just stay there for an hour, and kids can just keep reading to them. So it works out well.
What do you find is the best age group? Obviously, children starting to read, but I know that older children also enjoy it.
You know, we were talking about that a little bit, and it's amazing because the younger kids who can't really read will still open a book and tell a story. So even though they're not actually reading, they're sort of starting that process of, you know, working with books. And then sometimes older kids will come in, and I'm expecting that they're just gonna, you know, ask some questions about the dogs or whatever. And lo and behold, they'll open a book and they'll start reading as well. So it really seems that kids of all ages have gotten benefits out of the program.
That's wonderful. And how does the program operate in terms of cost? Is there a cost to have a
No, so actually dog? We are Therapy Dogs International. We are 100% volunteer organization, so there's no charge whatsoever to anyone who invites us into their facility. So for places like the libraries and school where there's usually budget constraints, it works out really well.
Okay. Aside from libraries, schools, nursing homes, what's the most unusual place maybe that you've taken Lottie Mae or any of the other dogs?
I'm trying to think. You know, we do college visits during finals week, and that's not so much unusual, but it's a lot of fun. Now there, the dogs can be a little bit more active, so
Students
it works
can
out.
De-stress a little.
Yeah, so that works out for dogs who aren't great at like coming in and laying down for an hour. So, you know, college visits. I'm trying to think. Nursing homes. Those are sort of the standards. I used to visit at a facility for adolescents with eating disorders, and that was interesting because there they would actually paint Lottie Mae's toenails and give her a brushing, you know, and that was a nice hour as well.
So you volunteer your time, but it kind of seems like a full-time job. Do you find that you're pretty busy every day?
Yeah, very busy. So I do have a full-time job, but on the weekends and a lot of evenings we go and visit places.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, what's the best way for someone to contact you if they're interested in their dog becoming a therapy dog?
So if they're interested in becoming a therapy dog, they're probably better going to the Therapy Dog International website and looking up the information there. If they're already a team with Therapy Dogs International and they want to become part of the chapter, they can email me at fl.tdi.chapter@gmail.com.
Okay, and again, just to recap, the dogs must be a year old. What were the other criteria?
It's a year old, and then there's a standard test that they have to take. Now, the nice thing about being part of an organization like Therapy Dogs International, when organizations invite us in, we are covered by liability insurance, and we are also required to have annual health exams and certain health tests. So, again, inviting a dog in, you know that it's a healthy dog that's going to show up and not, you know, a dog that's got some health ailments and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you ladies very much for joining us, and Lottie Mae was a pleasure.
Gotta wake up.
Again, to learn more about TDI and the Tail Waggin Tutors program, you can visit the website tdi-dog.org, and Carol's email is fl.tdi.chapter.org. Thanks for joining us on this edition of CityWise. I'm Tiana Stevens, and we'll see you next week.